they're a narcissist. So that's definitely like the
Why
buzzword
is
at the
that
moment,
the buzz?
go-to language. And I always laugh because I go, everyone seems to know a narcissist, but no one seems to be a narcissist.
Hello, Anita. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I can't wait to talk about why relationships fail because clearly I've always thought they failed because the other person was incompetent.
Surely that is not the case. No, come on. It's got to be.
Oh, again, who you're going to get in this session is either going to be self-aware Candace or just like sassy Candace. I don't know. They both run the show at times, so who knows? Who knows what the hell's going to happen? But yes, okay. I mean, obviously, why relationship fails. What does that statement trigger for you? Do you have any like reflections when you hear that?
I mean, the number one thing that comes up, and when I went out and asked on my story, what is it? Most people these days, well, I'm not going to say most people these days because that's a generalization. I guess the sort of people that I tend to, speak to and train with and all the rest of it we'll put it down to communication. So I think, I don't tend to go out too much in the wider world. So I
Yeah.
have my narrow, group of people that will realize that there's communication issues in relationships. So that's in my sphere, but I would always love to hear, elsewhere what other people are thinking. And no doubt, there's a lot of the blame stuff that would come into it as you just said there, it's the incompetence of the other person. Surely it can't be me. And I think the one that I'm hearing a lot of right now is they're a narcissist. So that's definitely like the
Why
buzzword
is
at the
that
moment.
the buzzword?
I'm hearing that
Yeah.
so much now. It's like the go-to language, and I always laugh because I go, everyone seems to know a narcissist, but no one seems to be a narcissist.
Oh my God, that needs to be on a t-shirt.
The best one is when I'm talking to two people that might have dated before or whatever, and they're calling each other a narcissist.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I guess we're all narcissists. Everyone's a narcissist. Like there is some element of every single person's personality that is a narcissist. Even if you think you're the nicest person on earth, there's some level of that extreme niceness that is all narcissistic about serving your desire to be loved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
And I
why
think that
is it
whenever,
when you
that's
meet
whenever I
someone, the
say that, it's
relationship's going well, you're both in love, and I know that's all the hormones and the chemicals and whatnot. So, and then suddenly you get to this point, and I guess it's 1, 2, 3 years. So you meet each other, you're in love, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously you both demask, right? Because there's an element of people going into relationships quite masked, I think. And what happened? You were both communicating at the beginning. Why does the communication then start to, go down?
But what were we communicating on at the beginning?
We were communicating on, I guess people communicate on, I don't know, people just communicate on sexual relations, I guess, in the beginning. If we're being honest, that's actually, there is no communication. There's just being connected at that very intense level.
And I think, as you say, it's like that. It's the quality of the communication. What dies off? Are we going in and we're communicating fully and we're being fully unmasked, let's say, or are we just communicating on a surface level? And then that communication obviously wears off because we've got past that, and now the honeymoon period's over. But are we getting into any depth of that of the communication that may have been more shallow at the start as we were hiding parts, of ourselves to show up in a certain way so that we're not rejected, so that we're loved. But ultimately,
and I guess when you meet someone and you think the communication's good and it starts to wane, the question is, was there good communication at all in the beginning, or was it just not?
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I always laugh, like, I love Love Island, right? So, and I think it's a really good representation of the way we are, even though people take the piss out of it. They they don't see the shadow aspects of it. And I often watch it, and they're meeting this person. They're like, "Oh my God, I just can't believe that we like the same TV show." You know, all these things that I
Mm,
just like, and it's like
mm-hmm.
at first it's all like, "Oh my God," and then who gives a fuck that you like the same TV show after, after a year or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's all new, and it's like we just love the same color, and it's all like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nice. It's kind of like this, beautiful fairy tale niceness that we think is gonna last forever, that we're going to be excited about the same colors and TV shows and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. It's like, and I think that's where the potential is where we're not getting into that depth. And people go, "It's too early to talk about this sort of shit. You shouldn't be talking about getting married and having kids on a first date." All
Mm,
of that stuff. And it's like,
mm.
why not? That's
Yeah.
straight where I go. I want to know what you want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, that's definitely it. And I'm the same. I'm very straight up as soon as I met my current partner about who I was and like the things I wanted and how I wanted to live. It still brought up communication issues for us. And in my head, I thought, did I not communicate this earlier? Um, so I
What
wonder,
was your
like, where did
assumption
we
about
miss
that?
it?
Yeah. What
Um,
was? Yeah.
Well, I think, I'd communicated certain things. I mean, we're fine, we're good. Um, but obviously we don't live together. We live in separate places.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which is great. But yeah, there was definitely the stuff around that and just complications. But I guess both of us maybe we didn't communicate clear enough. I felt like I did, but maybe I didn't.
But also, was it just a one conversation? Because this is what can be a problem sometimes.
Interesting.
I've
Um,
told you once that you need to change this, and we expect someone that's got a habit of a lifetime that may be blind to
mm,
some of their stuff to just change because we've said it once. I don't know. That's what I
yeah,
hear a lot. Well, I ask them, and I'm like, "Well, how are you going on changing that lifelong habit of anxiety or whatever it is that you have?" And
yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"No, it's kind of like, yeah."
yeah,
So just wondering
yeah, yeah.
how that
So having the conversation I think we did, but I guess we were at just in a different space. Like we've resolved it, and obviously come to the agreement of living separately because he needs to live out west, I need to live here, and it's fine. But at the time when we were having this struggle, I was like, oh, I thought I thought we weren't going to have this struggle because I thought it was articulated. But clearly, even if you think you're a good communicator, there are some things you're going to miss.
Yeah. And also I guess it's that understanding of just because it's like people saying I set my boundary and they cross my boundary, all of this sort of stuff. It's like, well, what's their understanding of what you're saying? Because that's another thing as well. We
Yes.
often think we're being really clear, and in our mind it all makes sense because we've been running
Mm.
this expectation or whatever it is, or this need or this value for forever. But how do they hear it? How do they receive it? Do we sit and do we talk through? What do we understand about that? Are we in agreement of that?
And that was the thing I was coming to actually. I think just was watching something today and talking to another person about this topic, and it is the understanding. I wonder if it's communication that's the issue, or the core thing is understanding.
Yeah,
How do I
yeah,
understand you, and how do you understand me? So uh, I wonder if in NLP or neurosemantics, I mean, God, I'm sure there's one, but I can't think of one, so I'll leave it to you. Is there a tool that you can use to make sure the other person has understood you? How would you check? How would you
well, that's the
check?
questioning, isn't it? The meta model questioning. Yeah, you're getting into the questions of checking.
And
Yeah,
what are some of those checks? What are some of those checks?
well, asking. So if when I say this, does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And what's your understanding of what I've just said? So it's really asking the question of, as you said there, if it's understanding, it's as simple as asking understanding questions. Are we both
Yeah,
understanding what each other is saying and then repeating it back or whatever, or giving our version of the understanding and
yeah,
going, oh shit, is that how you heard it? Because we can often go
Yeah.
like that. You have two people watching the same TV program or watching the same scenario, play out. Then we go away from it, and the two people are having a discussion about what they just heard. And even though they're in theory watching the same thing, the way that they've taken it away is quite different from the other, because we're watching it through our own lenses, our own
Mm-hmm.
programming, our own childhood, patterns and programs that we learn.
Mm.
And that's what we view the world through, not through just perceiving it as it is, perceiving it and judging it as we are through our lenses. So
Yeah.
two people witnessing the same thing are going to potentially have two different interpretations of it. So it's like repeating it back to each other, speaking to each other, in that way, not in a patronizing or childish way, just to make that clear as
Mm-hmm.
well. But yeah, I want to understand what you understand about what I said, and I want to understand if I understand what you just said.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, just to bring the male perspective energy into this, do you think, obviously we know men and women struggle to understand each other at times.
so do women and
Base
women, and so do men and men.
Yes,
So I think, again,
absolutely, absolutely.
abolish that generalization. I understand
Yeah,
men very well when they explain things to me.
but is it because our communication styles differ so much?
From person to person, not from man to woman.
Okay, got it.
So no, we
Fine. I'm
can't.
take my
How can we
biases
say that
out.
every woman communicates in the same way? Like, I mean, what are we saying? I hear a lot of girls
Mm.
having arguments with their girlfriends and not being understood by them, and they're not
Oh
hearing
yeah.
me. So where are we going with this? Again, it's like, do we communicate differently, or do we communicate as per our programs, our upbringings, our
Hmm.
traumas, individually,
So
not gender based? Yeah.
we've said communication, we've said understanding. I'll link it down below, but I was watching uh a relationship expert or someone on Diary of a CEO, and he said actually the biggest relationship failure is purpose, is not having the same purpose, because you can like each other, you can even have things in common, but if you're both walking along and going in different directions, your purpose isn't aligned. That's hard. It's like you have to be in the same car as individuals driving in the same direction. What do you think of that?
I mean, sure, that's, yeah, why not? It's like values, isn't it? If we don't have the same values, it's going to be harder. I guess, I think a lot of the time, even if we're kind of not aligned in some of that stuff, if we're able to communicate on a level of understanding ourselves and each other, that stuff may not matter as much, right? So I
Mm.
think it's like, I think a lot of the stuff out there can focus on the surface of we're men and women, so we're different, our values are different and all the rest of it. But I think what we miss within that is, what we're missing is that the key part of the fundamental part is our own self-understanding. Yeah.
Mm.
So when we say they don't understand me, again, it comes back to, but are we, excuse me, are we communicating in a way of being understood? I know so many people, in relationships where they'll come in and they'll sort of, blame what's happening with the other person. And then they'll tell
Mm-hmm.
me things, and I'll be like, well, but have you communicated that to them? And they're like, no, I couldn't
Mm.
possibly tell. Excuse me.
That's okay. That's the English weather
Yeah.
for you.
And so in those moments, it's saying, it's like, well, you're expecting them to hear you in a certain way, but you're not actually expressing what's truly going on for you. But you're having an expectation, and then it comes down to, you don't understand me, I'm a woman, I've got my period, or whatever it is. But what we're not
Mm-hmm.
doing in that is, we're not actually verbalizing what is happening. And if we actually
Mm.
say, look, I'm feeling a certain way, I'm feeling like if I tell you this, you might break up with me, or I feel really vulnerable in this, I feel like I don't want this part of me to be seen, then they're probably going to understand you then. Whereas if
Yeah.
you're kind of going about and you're not showing that, and you're being maybe a little bit moody and a little bit distant, just thinking they should understand you, but you're
Yeah.
not actually expressing, because you're maybe not fully understanding yourself even in those moments, then that's I think this is where it comes down to, how well are we actually understanding and expressing our, from ourselves to
Mm.
ourselves.
Mm.
And that's what we then take into a relationship. So
Mm. Yes, yes. I think you're right with understanding ourselves, understanding what we need, understanding what we desire. And then the most pivotal thing, which I have noticed lately, is having the courage to actually express what you want, having the courage to go ahead and do what you desire, and having the courage to know that that might not sit well with somebody else and it might not work. Like the courage to actually follow your own truth. A lot of the time we lack the courage and then we project onto the other person for not meeting our needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think then
And
it's that yeah, that real understanding then of what is it that stops me from saying, from having the courage, right? From having the courage and really understanding and unpacking that part to be able to then not even need the courage, but simply to be able to speak it, because now we understand
yeah.
whatever's stopped us from doing it before. So yeah,
Yeah, and
definitely.
I think I do hear a lot of situations, and I have had a lot of clients where that is one of the a major factor, a lack of thinking they're expressing themselves in the right words, but not actually delivering the truth.
Yeah,
Still making it a code that needs to be deciphered,
yeah,
which is a challenge for
absolutely.
anyone, right?
Yeah,
We're not here to crack
I
codes.
agree.
We're here to relationship. Nobody's be cracking
Yeah.
codes. The other thing that was coming up around why relationships fail, I want to know, can there be a power imbalance in a relationship and it still succeed? I've worked with clients, I've observed people just where there's a real, I guess power might be the wrong word, but there's a real um, energy imbalance where one person is really the controlling factor in the relationship and the other person is sort of, you know, probably doesn't speak their truth. Can the relationship still work?
I mean, what's your experience? You said you've seen it. What do you see? Yeah, in that.
I mean, I just see, when people, I got to stop saying, I always hear myself. It's that seeing sort of one person in a relationship reprimand another
Mhm.
like a child, and then
Mhm.
wondering how that energy dynamic feels for the other person. And because
Mhm.
I mean, I feel uncomfortable in the situation, but I just wonder, like, yeah, can that still be a successful relation?
Well, I mean, what I would probably, I'd guess in a lot of these relationships is how does it feel for the other person being reprimanded? I would guess probably familiar. Because I think when you see people getting into those sorts of
Oh.
dynamics, it's they're playing out their childhoods, right? They're playing out the dynamics of their personality type. So it does take an uber controlling person to be with someone who is more, kind of the more, quiet type, let's say. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where you get those dynamics. It's rare that you're going to get two people in a
Mm.
relationship that are going to be, two of the same in those extreme dynamics. It's like the parts that are missing in us are usually what brings us together. So if we're lacking control within our life, we need some structure. We're going to tend to move more towards, that sort of personality type, because we haven't got that within
Mm.
ourselves. Um, so I would say it's a familiar thing. And can it work? Well, it can work if they carry on needing to have each other to fulfill those missing parts of them. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, they're just playing into each other's, yeah, unhealth, I guess, and missing parts. But I guess that might be their health
yeah,
for where they
and I
are,
think
for
that's
where they are
often
in their
where
evolution.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
I think that's often where I will hear this kind of, that's when you kind of hear the labels of the narcissist as the controlling one or whatever, and then you'll get the empath, the toxic
Yeah.
empath at the other extreme of it. So I don't know, can it work? It can work until it doesn't work anymore, and yeah,
Mm.
is it healthy? If they're okay in it and that's the way that they are, then are they? Yeah, they may keep going with it. Is it the best that they've got, or potentially of themselves in that moment? And
Mm.
unless they're resolving those issues within themselves, then
And
they
so
can carry
imagine,
on.
I guess people are going on in these relationship situations, and I wonder, does a relationship grow deeper with self-awareness? Is it better to have self-awareness? Is it better to, 'cause some people are like, oh, you know what? It's not perfect, but it's not broke. It's fine. I've heard that actually, oh, you want too much, and too many questions, too much exploring. Maybe just be content with the status quo. And people tell me that, like, it's not bad, but yeah, whatever. It's not amazing, but like, is exploration needed for contentment? For me, yes, along my belief system.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, it's important, to have that communication exploration.
Yeah, and the constant evolution, even of the relationship,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're changing. We're always changing. I'm changing. The other person's changing, evolving, growing. I can't imagine staying the same. So
Yeah.
I just
So for
wonder.
you, it's important.
For me,
Yeah.
it's important. I guess for other people, it's not.
Yeah, and I guess if there's one that likes it and one that doesn't, then and it's not happening, and you're frustrating each other by one wanting it and the other not, then maybe it's time to
Mm.
go and find the match of you, right? The one that the one that wants to go into all of that, and then the one that wants the peaceful, to find someone that wants that
But
that
what do you say to
peaceful.
people that say, well, you can't find, it's not going to, it's hard to find that, it's hard, you're wanting too much, or you just be content. Not everything's going to work in the relationship.
Well, what do you mean if someone says that to me?
Yeah. What is your, or to me, just in general, because I see that people are unhappy. I hear that people are unhappy, and then
Right.
yet their answer is, well, nothing's perfect. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, that's their perspective, right? That's theirs. If it's
Mm,
not yours, then you can hear them,
yeah.
but are you taking their advice, or are you following your own? I don't know.
No, I just find it really, like, I guess, who am I to try and want their contentment for them? Who am I? Who am I to try and force
Oh, as
their...
in you're trying to tell them that they need something different.
Yes, which I shouldn't be.
Right.
But, I guess that my beliefs and biases, uh, they're there. They're strong. I have them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see them all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, I just, I see a lot of things that don't work, and there's a lot of things that don't work in my relationship, and there's a lot of things that do work in my relationship. So I guess, again, but I think if you're on the path to exploring always how to get closer or how to understand each other, anything's possible.
mm,
But I wonder
yeah,
if you're in a relationship where a lot of it's not working and there's no path to understanding each other, but you're just existing, But then is that the married couple who's there for 50 years but really hate each other? But they did it. They survived those 50 years,
well,
right?
exactly. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
When you've had
I think
relationships,
this is
yeah, go ahead.
so yeah, one of the big things I think that I see within this is the a big factor in this relationship failure is around the fact that and this is said with complete compassion, but that we have this idealized version of what
Mm,
a relationship should be. And like,
yeah.
there's so many clients that I work with, so many friends, and they sit there, you can just see them in their imagination going, oh, I'm going to manifest this, and I'm going to, all of this. And as beautiful as it is, it's not real, and I think that's it. We want this level of it being this beautiful, thing, which is said again with compassion, which it could be at the start, for the
Mm,
first few weeks or whatever. It might not be, but it could be. But anyway, whether it is or it isn't, it's this expectation, this imagination we have that isn't realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like that couple that have stayed together 50 years. Well, yeah, and they're getting on each other's nerves. Well, that's probable for most people, right? If you're with someone for that long, you're going to get on each other's nerves. But it's what you do with that. And I think this is the thing. It's like we live our relationships more in our imagination than we do in reality with the other person. And so we meet someone and we're like, oh, yeah, they're amazing and all of this. We haven't really got to know them, but in our heads, they're great. In our heads, they're this. And then the minute that something happens, that they do something that we don't like, it's like it's shattered this whole illusion that wasn't ever really real. It's like the unmasking, that thing that you talked about. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they were never perfect. We're not perfect. They're not going to be perfect. And it's
Yeah.
like, and again, this is said with compassion, because we live in a world where it is, it's fucking hard. Life's hard, all of this. And we just want this thing that's going to come along and suddenly make it all better and, save us in some way. And when we
Mm.
don't get that, and it's like a lot of the time I'll say to my clients, keep it in your keep it in your head. Don't worry about stressing yourself that you're single. It sounds beautiful what you've created in your imagination.
Yeah.
It actually
Yeah.
sounds unrealistic, and I know this is the
Yeah.
difference of some, coaches compared to others, who will
Mm-hmm.
go into, oh yeah, you manifest and you'll get all of this. But then when I actually see these people get into relationships, the way they talked about it was a lot more romantic and better than the actual
Yeah.
reality of it. Not to say there's anything wrong with the
Mm.
relationship. Nothing wrong with the relationship. A completely normal relationship that with some communication can be worked through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the match of what I thought it was going to be. And that's, a big failure of relationships.
Is there an element where you can stay in Delulu land and convince yourself it's amazing? Do you know what I mean? If you stay in that, well, I manifested this, that delusion, or is that delusion always going to let you down?
It depends how good you really are at delusionizing. It's that whole thing. Are you sitting there in delusion and kind of telling the story to your friends and all the rest of it, when in your mind you are flipping between worst case? There's a lot of worst case, but you're trying to
Mm.
mask it with the best case. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're really if you've really done it well, then in theory, it's no longer delusion. You're living it. But if you're lying to yourself, that's where the delusion comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're lying to yourself, that's where the delusion comes in. Exactly. Because delusion done well is imagination becoming creation, I think. Yeah. Because if you can imagine it, you can create it. But if you create it and then you don't like the realities of some of its aspects, then that's where, oh, I thought this was going to be like this. But I read something just the other day about, well, if you rest your attention on where the flaws are, the flaws will be there. If you rest your attention on where the pleasure is, the wonder is, the things that spark joy, then that's where your attention will be. That's what you'll see in the other person. So there's an element of
Absolutely.
delusion there,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, but belief, I
It's all
guess.
delusion. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all of it's
Yeah.
delusion.
Belief is delusion, though. Yeah,
Oh,
it's all
yeah.
delusion. Unless you're just there with the person, with no thoughts running, it's all delusion.
Oh my God, hold on a minute. Belief is delusion.
Of course.
That's just mind-blowing. But we're so tied to our beliefs. We think our beliefs are like, everything about us. But they really are. They're a
Yeah.
delusion.
Yeah.
They're a
They're a
dissolvable
delusion.
thought.
Yeah, exactly. So that, and that's the
Wow.
thing. It's like, well, people go, oh, what do I do? Just not have beliefs, not have anything. It's like, well, have them, but hold them lightly. You will argue your beliefs. You'll sit there and yet they will cause you as much, pain as they will pleasure, because you're so tightly held to them. It will cause you to argue about, I believe in this. And you have all these arguments, you go away and you completely just, fuck yourself through the metastating of, the thinking of the beliefs that you hold, and how someone doesn't agree with you and how that's wrong and all the rest of it. And it's like, they're not real. There's something that you've heard and you've run on repeat. Your beliefs are not,
Mm.
it's not to say they're not valid, because they're yours,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean that they're everyone's. And, if we're holding on to them so tightly, they are going to cause us the pain, so
Wow.
yeah.
That's and that's the foundation of all this work you do. And we always come back to that don't hold so tightly to your beliefs. But if you hold tightly to your belief that every man's going to let me down, and every man was at fault, or every woman was at fault, and every woman's going to let me down, that will be your reality, 100%. That's your belief,
Exactly.
you know? It won't even matter what the other person did or didn't do. It's
Exactly.
so when you have been in a relationship, I'll get personal. What do you think, like, when did you think, I mean, okay, this relationship's gonna fail because we're using that word. Like, how do you define it as someone who's done so much work, as someone who's put in all the time for self-awareness, as someone who's definitely understands communication?
So for me, I never thought this relationship's going to fail ever. All I see is that when I was with them, I was with them, and when we weren't, and that was it. I didn't ever sit there and think I wouldn't be with someone if I'm thinking we're going to break up. Like for me, it doesn't make sense, and probably why I haven't had multiple relationships, because I'm if I'm in it, I'm in it. So when I've been in them, it's like this is when we're properly together, there's a togetherness that is together. And there was never a moment where I thought in my long-term relationship where we're not going to be together, and there was never a moment when we split up that I thought we were going to be together. So it was literally as it was. I'm not there to be with someone that I'm not thinking this is going to fail.
So how do you go from
Yeah,
thinking it's going to work to then going, okay, we're breaking up? Because that's quick. Like,
yeah.
the belief is there. Okay, this is my relationship. This is what I'm into. Okay, we're breaking up. I'm not going to be with that person.
Yeah,
How do you? How can
it
you
was pretty
switch?
sudden in that moment.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
that's what happened in the moment where there was a decision to, there was a working on something. And then when the
Mm-hmm.
working on something, therapy, when that kind of ended, then there was okay, this is the decision now that we're not going to be together. And there wasn't any, are we, aren't we? When it was done, it was done. I've always been like that, and I don't go back and I don't go, oh, is it, it's just like once it's done, and even in situations where I've been seeing people that haven't been, they're my boyfriend. As soon as that's done, I don't go
Wow.
back into things again. It's kind of like once that's, because a lot of that stuff is just messy, right? It's just messy. It's like back and forth and all of that. To me, I don't get involved in I don't get involved in the messiness of it. I think, there's, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's quite
Yeah.
when that
Yeah.
once that thing ends, the attraction goes, because a lot of the time
Wow.
when we're going back and forth with these things, in these romantic relationships, it's because we're still holding on to the abandonment. A lot of this is about the abandonment wound, right? It's less about the person and more about the feelings of, of being rejected and abandoned. And I remember with the last person that I was seeing, I could see that so clearly. And, when that ended, people were going, oh my God, you must be so upset about him. And I would say, but I know it's not about him. These are people that I can talk to in this sense because we're close, right? So a lot of my best friends, they would be going, oh, you must be really upset about him. And I said, it's got nothing to do with him. I feel, the upset and hurt that I feel is to do with the way the situation played out and how my wound, my childhood wounds are impacted in this moment. But I can clearly see it's not. And if it was about him, if I believed it was about him, that's when I would go chasing for something and trying to get them back or whatever, because I would believe that they are the thing that will make me feel better. But the minute I know that it's got nothing to do with them and everything to do with the shit that's coming up in me again, from based on my own wounds, then it's, the work is only ever here. I don't need them to make me feel better, or I don't need this whole push-pull thing. So I always say this, so far today, there's never been anyone where that's gone back. I'm not saying that can't happen if if two really healthy people came together sometime in the future, but the way that I would see it is that whenever, especially more in the recent years of doing this work, whenever I've been seeing someone, they're running, very strong programs of usually distrust, internal mismatching, this thing where they're second guessing themselves. I know it's not about me. And I
Yeah.
sit there and, I'm always there to be in support of someone. But if the behavior gets a bit to the point where it's like, nah, there's looking at other women, something like that going on, then for me, that's a no-no. Otherwise, I'm happy to work with someone. I've done enough of this to not have expectations that anyone is going to have done 20 years of, self-development work. So I'm more than happy to kind of, support someone in that, but it's got to be at a healthy, a healthy level. But the key
Yeah.
thing with me always is that there's nothing needs to end ugly. Like even if there's been something which other people could get offended by, if I can see it's not about me and that they're running some programs of distrusting themselves and making wrong decisions about their future and all the rest of it, then I will we can be friends. I'm more than happy. If you ever want to call me and talk to me about any of it, I get over it very quickly in terms of, this has gone from me being into you to if you need to talk to me, because I love it. For me, it's a real interest,
Yeah.
right? And I love, especially in
Yeah.
the world of, the whole man-woman divide, to be able to understand men because they feel like they can talk to me. So for me, I get to learn so much about people. If I've been seeing them, it doesn't matter. Once that for me is very clear, it's like I want to hear what's happening for them and what's happening in future relationships and, to talk them
Yeah.
through anything, that they want to
Yeah.
talk about. So,
And I think
yeah.
it sounds like you know your own mind. I always feel like to know your own mind is to know peace. And that's why you can shift out of the situation without being in limbo. To be in limbo is to just psychologically torture yourself for no reason at all. And we do it. I mean,
Well, for
majority
the
of us, we
reason
do it.
of your unresolved wounds and not knowing that. So it's
Mm,
it's because we're going around in circles with this, and it's circles because we're not getting into the depth. We're placing our focus so much on them and what they've done to us, and making it about them having made us feel like this. So we're looping and we're going back and forth, going, oh, I need them to. But what we're missing in that circling is that we're not getting into the depths of our own stuff, and we're distracted by them, thinking it's them.
yeah.
I've got to keep going back there because if they accept me, then I'm no longer rejected and abandoned, and then I'll be okay. But it's the
Yeah.
work isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. And I find that it's hard for people to actually come back to say, well, this is about me when they break up. They might come to that conclusion at a later date,
Yeah,
but initially there's always
yeah,
well, that happened and that wasn't happening and I needed this and it's really, it's so externalized.
yeah,
And I think we do
yeah,
the work,
yeah.
but honestly, I've done a lot of work over the years on myself. And I still find myself, coming back and forward. I mean, before I met my partner, I thought I was the most evolved being. Namaste. I was zen. I was aware. I was meditating every day. And look, I still do that. But I getting into a relationship has really it's triggering. It brings up all the stuff, like you said, because I didn't realize I'd worked on one layer of stuff, layer of childhood wounds. Um,
Yeah.
and then, I met my partner. I was like, oh, hold on, there's some more layers there. And it's funny because I remember talking to Jay and saying, well, I don't think I really, before I got into a relationship, need a relationship. I'm really content. Life is so beautiful. I'm chill. And he's like, yes, but how will you meet yourself? How will I meet myself? And that's the thing. How will I meet myself? I won't. I'll just stay at this level of Candace, this space. I would never meet myself at in another level, another expansion. And I'm meeting myself, let me tell you.
Mm. Yeah.
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 Um,
Love it.
but it's good because you can stay in your bubble. You can. I could stay single. I could, just chill out and not.
But most people that are living that, Candies, what I hear is they will say that, but they're still going out dating loads and they're still like, it looks like they're looking. So there's very few people that are actually truly kind of content with that.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot where people can be like, oh yeah, no, it's all fine, and no, I don't need anyone, and all the rest of it, but they're still going out dating. And I see this a lot, and I'm like, well, what are you dating for?
Mm.
What are you going out for? Oh, just to fulfill some sexual or whatever it is. And I'm like, and then I just watch them, they end up in a relationship in no time. And
Well,
then,
so
it's kind of, and then you hear the reverse. Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
I
And I
agree.
remember I
I
had a couple of
agree.
friends. Yeah.
No, continue. Let me hear this.
Yeah, well,
Sorry,
I
there's
was
a song
there
going.
was a couple of friends I can remember as well who were like desperate to be in relationships. They were literally like every time I saw them, and I'm like, and it was just it's painful whenever I hear someone so desperate to be in a relationship, but they're not actually in one. And picking that kind of whole thing apart with them, and then eventually they got into a relationship, and a year down the line, it's like they've forgotten how shit it was to be single, because now they're having such a shit time in the relationship that they're like, I was so much better off single. I was so much happier. And I'm like, no, you weren't. I was sitting here with you, listening to you for hours, telling me how awful it is that you're single, and
Yeah.
how can we help to meet someone. And now all of a sudden you're better off single. And
Yeah.
again, it's like,
So when I was single, I was taking a break from dating, and I was seeing a couple people here and there, but not. And then we had COVID. And honestly, when I decided to date, I said, okay, I'm ready for a relationship. I said those words in a conversation. And that's when I literally a week later found a relationship. That was how quickly that happened. But up until then, I was, not
yeah,
really in that mindset. And the minute I went, okay, yeah, I want a relationship now, I'm ready. And, I'm ready for the space. Then it happened. But I think it was good to go through that space of being content and single. But knowing that also,
yeah,
I there was a part of me that was in fear of getting to a relationship because I didn't want to be hurt.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you
totally
know?
understand that. And I think that's that the people that protest too much about being single, being in relationships, it's kind of like there's a cover for something about it. It's like if you're single and you're just single, you're
Yeah.
not making too much of a fuss, but you're not going. It's just that's what you're choosing. If we're kind of there with some sort of point about it, and this is how it is, and this is what I'm choosing, and I'm celibate for 2 years, all of that. There's something underlying all of that.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
defending and a protecting of the situation. So yeah.
Mm.
I think there's just being in whatever situation you're in, and there's not too much being said about it. It's just whatever's happening in that moment. And then the people that are more like, yeah, vocal about it, and it's like they're trying to convince
Mm-hmm.
themselves of something, everyone else of
Mm.
something, and it's like it's usually on behalf of exactly what you're saying, fear,
Yeah.
protection.
Yeah.
It's a normal human, it's very normal. I don't want to be in a
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, I'm going out dating loads. It's like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's really going
Yeah.
on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think my son always says, that he says, it's not that deep, mum.
yeah,
It's not that deep. It's not that deep. Calm down. It's not that deep. And actually, I think a lot of the time it isn't that deep. Like, even though we're having quite a deep conversation right now, we overanalyze, we go back and forth, we have conversations, we play out futures. It's not that deep. Either you want to
but that's the deep. That's
connect
the
and
depth.
expand. Do you know what I mean?
It's as deep as you make it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I
The
think the
depth
overthinkings is the problem.
so it's
Yeah, explain. Sorry, there's a lag in our
yeah,
connection.
yeah. Um, so when people say it's not that deep, I hear this a lot on Love Island. So it's obviously a thing of the youth. But when I hear that as well, it's like it isn't that deep when we look at it on the surface of the surface. What makes it deep is as you say, the overthinking, is the overanalyzing. So it's not to discount that, because
No.
otherwise we can again go into delusional land and go, it's not that deep, and and this is what I hear a lot on Love Island. I can see how much they're struggling, but they're dismissing their own feelings and emotions by saying if it's not that deep genuinely, then that's absolutely fine. But considering we are, human beings
Mm.
that, are deep, whether we want to, admit it or not, we are deep thinkers. There's a very
Hmm.
small, tiny percentage of people that don't think. The rest of us are deeply immersed in our thoughts, whether we want to admit that or not. And that's where the depth is. the surface story of this situation isn't that deep is very true. If you get beyond that and what the feelings and thinkings are for the humans, then we usually get to depth. So it's the
So
difference
I
between seeing where we're
wonder,
dismissing something or we.
for me, it's not that deep is a really quick way for me to pull myself out of thinking. And I wonder if it's the context in which my son uses it
Yeah,
to actually, because he
yeah,
sees me going,
perfect.
spiral. Whoa, I'm having, he's like, it's not that deep. So that's the pulling me out of the unhealthy depth. And the real depth
Good.
is presence and connection
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's not depth when I'm
yeah,
going back and forth in my head conversing. It's not depth, it's chaos. True depth is the
yeah,
connection and the presence with the other being. So whereas I get that on Love Island, I
yeah,
get the term,
exactly.
the euphemism is used as a dismissive thing. But I don't know, maybe we can get this going viral in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. What does it mean? It's not that deep. Exactly. And I think that's the difference. It's the, as you say, it's the health of, it's the health of you. It's like one of my clients has this thing of just don't get in the whirlwind. And that works for her. It's like, don't get that deep. And if that's true for us and that's what's working, then yes, let's go for that. If we
Yeah.
see ourselves kind of going, they've just said that to me, but actually there is a lot more depth in here that would be beneficial to explore, then, again, it's,
Yeah.
make your own judgment of what needs to be deeped
Mm,
and processed
yeah.
and what
But
doesn't.
I think
Yeah.
I'm learning more that exploration is like, and I'm always reminded in my meditation practice of this, that if we want to explore, it's so much more authentic and deep from presence, because if you're exploring while conversing in your head about what's going on for the other person, that's not depth again. Yeah, as we know, that's just lack of presence. That's just you having your own journey, which I also experience a lot of people doing that. And even myself, I do that. I try to catch it so I can be here, but I find myself pretending almost to be engaged and having a deep conversation, but I'm just waiting to see what I'm going to say next.
Yeah, totally.
Mm, yeah. I mean, that's the honest thing. And even after all the work I've done, that still happens. You know, that's the reality. I'm okay with
For
that.
sure.
I have a lot more moments present where I can be in the face of you, so I can be in the face of me. Oh my God, I'm sounding like the Jays. Stop it. So,
I was going
what
to
would,
say, because we've got a
yeah.
couple of people that
Oh my God, go.
have left some comments off the back of my stories, which I thought I'd ask them to do. So maybe let's have a little look at this.
Yes, please.
Okay. So my question was, why do relationships fail? And we got back some really
Oh, I
interesting things. So thanks to
know.
everyone. So this one was quite cool. So, but relationships fail when we're not watering the grass and we think the grass is greener on the other side. So I think that's something that we've kind of got
Yeah,
into quite a lot, where we kind of
but it's
go off, get distracted, think that there's something better out there because this is all too fucking hard. So we don't take the time to water the grass and communicate and get deep, and we go, oh, what else is out there? So
it's not
yeah,
the
I
grass
think
isn't
that's
greener. It's just different grass. Like,
it's just different
you
grass.
know, it's just different
Same
grass.
shit, different
Be
different grass.
less classy term,
Same shit
yes.
on a different patch of grass.
And you know what? Sometimes you got to pour shit on your grass. You got to put manure on. You know what I mean? You got to fertilize. Like, out of
Fertilize.
shit, flowers do
Okay.
bloom.
Okay, this is quite a cool one. So someone wrote, when we prioritize the urgent over the important. So I was like,
Ooh.
okay, what does that mean? And they wrote, the story goes that the owner of Walmart got sick at 74 years old and considered himself a failure because he didn't spend quality time with his grandchildren. He was always thinking about work. So that's quite an interesting one that we go
Mm-hmm.
into. You know, what the urgency of needing to make money, blah blah blah, all the rest of it, over
Mm.
the really important stuff, which is the relationships potentially. So I quite like that.
How can people remember to decipher that? Because I guess they get caught up and they're like, well, I got bills to pay. Urgency is I got to stay back at work, or I got to work extra hours, or whatever they're going through. Um, or this business has to succeed. Uh, In their mind, that's the importance. How can they
Yeah,
maintain what they
exactly.
do and still do the important thing like connections?
Mm. I mean, the way that I would see it is, it's like it's really what's happening there is it's a value set, and they are valuing work over. They are considering that more important. So it's a value piece. So the only way to really combat that is to obviously sit down, do some work, and reprioritize values, but not just because you think you should. Because I hear what you're saying there. It's like if you've got bills to pay, you've got survival needs, then that's what's happening there. So yeah, I hear that a lot, where people go, oh, I need to be spending more time with my family, yet I'm doing all this work. And it's like there's work to do there in order to, if you really want that, you will make that happen. You've got to shift your values. So yeah, totally
Is
hearing
it
you on that one.
is it possible for people in dire survival situations to be able to even focus on things like the importance of connection?
Again, yeah, it depends on their values, right? Are they getting enough value out of the connection to meet their survival needs, or yeah,
Mm.
if it's about the work, it's about the work. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when
that's a
my
really
kids were little,
tricky
and I
one.
was
And if
like,
anyone's listening,
yeah, when my kids were little, I didn't have time to think
say that
about.
again.
When my children were little, I didn't have time to think about the connection or with their father or with them, even with them. I was in fight or flight. I didn't like, I just couldn't. I wouldn't have, it was just surviving. I
Yeah,
wish I had
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. So for you, it was more important to get out and make the money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
just
get that.
get up and survive the
Yeah, it's
day,
tough.
look after them, raise them. Like it,
Yeah,
so I do want to stress, like, I know that we sit from a place of real privilege where we have the space to do this now and reflect and be aware. But I also
yeah,
know that there are people in situations that
yeah,
it isn't even a thought they can entertain, because survival is so primary.
yeah,
Human survival, life survival, you know.
yeah,
Mm, So definitely. I mean, and then there's like my dad, he's still in survival mode. He's very wealthy and he can retire, but he can't. I mean, he needs to for his health, but he won't because he's still in survival mode because he grew up poor. So he's missing out on these connections that we could be having at this time in his life as he's older, and, improving our
yeah.
relationship,
So
but we're
then
not
it
getting
really
that.
comes down to what. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I understand. And I think what you're saying there, and I think all of this does come back to, is it is it really about survival in terms of money, or is it really about survival in terms of our driver programs that are running the show? So your dad
Mm.
has, in theory, he's got the money, so he's not actually in a survival state. 'Cause survival is
No.
to be without food, to be without, right? But what he's in survival of is his programming, whatever, the need to work, the fear of losing what he's got, or the fear of, self-image. I don't know, whatever that might be for him. And I think a lot of the time it does come down to that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I
Tough one,
see
that
that. I
one.
see what years of not
Okay.
doing the work happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so a couple more. One person just wrote the failure of relationship, and they've just written shadow. So our shadows. So yeah, biggest,
Who
definitely.
wrote that?
The toughest one is, yeah, uh, one of my friends who does a lot of shadow work. It wasn't me.
I was like, is that someone I know? Like, it sounds familiar. Yeah, shadow. Definitely
Yeah, it
shadow.
is. Yeah,
And can you just define
yeah,
shadow for
yeah, yeah.
people? Because I know everyone throws it around. It's
Yeah.
another buzzword, but what is shadow?
Yeah. So shadow is the parts of us that are unseen, our blind spots that we get triggered by in others. So again, people won't like this, but when we throw around that word narcissist, it's like, where are we rejecting the narcissist within us? The part of us that is actually doing things for our own survival, right? We're in this relationship, we're over giving and all the rest of it, ultimately for our own gains, and I know it's a harsh one to hear, but it's kind of seeing that. And so when we're in a relationship with someone, whatever that may be, and anything that we're triggered by that we're saying that they're doing, the minute we're feeling that trigger arising within us, there's a great alarm bell to kind of ask ourselves the question of, where is this me that I'm seeing in them? Yeah. So where is this behavior of disrespect that they're displaying, or judgment, or whatever it is, as we're probably not being that respectful either to ourselves, in allowing ourselves to be in these dynamics potentially? Where are we potentially judging them as they judge us? There's our shadow. So with this work, it's not about it being on the same level. We don't need to be on the same level as judgment. I'm not as judgmental as them, but you're judging them. But I'm not doing it as badly as them, but you're still judging. So there's the shadow aspect, right? So a lot of those breakups are when we're going, I'm breaking up with them, or this relationship is failing because they are this, they are that, they are that, they are that. It's take those words and go, where might that be a part of me that I'm not seeing? And this is where we can get compassionate with ourselves within that. The more that we can accept that we are all of those ugly, nasty words, we do not, that we're not them, but that we do behaviors of narcissism, disrespect, judgment, jealousy, all those really ugly words that we go, I'm not that, I'm not selfish, I'm not all of that. But we're human, so we can do those, and we will do those at certain times in our life. And that's the parts that we're rejecting within ourselves.
Questions or statements from...
I think, let's see, what else did we have? So someone's saying that people come into relationships replaying their pasts. So they come in their family dynamics, basically, into relationships, and they don't realise that they're blindly playing out the family dynamics, which we obviously touched on earlier. As I like to say, we don't clash each other. We clash our childhood woundings and our traumas.
Yeah.
But we don't realise that's what we're doing. So we can see the sorts of people that have been replying are definitely ones. A lot of coaches.
And I think that's the thing. What we've learned from, I think this is the 5th episode we've done, is that it keeps coming back to the self, to doing the inner work on the self. Today has been about communication and understanding and purpose and shadow, but all of it relates to the self. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
it all comes back to us.
Yeah, it all comes back to us. It all relates to us. And if we're not doing the inner work, we're forever projecting out into the world how they've damaged us.
Yeah. I was with someone the other day and we were talking this stuff through, and they were having some relationship stuff going on. And I just said, he said exactly this. I said, it's got nothing to do with either of them or you. I said, it's got nothing to do with anyone apart from you. And they were just like, what do you mean? I was like, you could date anyone, you could be with anyone. They're just there simply as the mirror to reflect back us to us. It doesn't actually matter who they are. So your decision of who you need to be with or who you don't need to be with, it doesn't actually matter. You can make it whatever you want to make it. All the stuff that's playing out is simply your relationship with yourself. And they were just like, what does that even mean? But yeah.
If you're asking what that even means, that's the start. Do the work, focus on yourself. Life gets better from the inside out from you. I think that's definitely it. Well, it's been nice talking to you. I will wrap up. Sorry about the internet issues. Gosh, I don't know what's